All right, Tim. So we're finally here. It's happening. I know we've talked about this for six or 7 months now, and RiZe Grind Repeat podcast. Good friend Tim Murphy, artist, UX designer, and good friend and coworker. How's it going?
Good. I can't believe it's actually happening.
Yeah,
it's good to get this started.
Yeah. So.
What are we going to talk about today?
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting. So I saw the Lego Movie 2 last night, and there was a little tie-in. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's kind of on the trajectory that we're on in our journey, where we're talking about epigenetics and how. A lot of times we feel we're the person that we were when we were young, and we might have been directed in a certain path, and we think that we are something that we're not, based on what our parents wanted us to be, or some type of comment that just resonated with us and stuck with us, and that there was a little bit of a tie in there, which was kind of interesting, and maybe it's just the universe, just what I'm going through right now is maybe that's just the message I got from it, but quite interesting. For sure.
So it's kind of you see what you're looking for, and there was a message about life journey and.
Right, and I think a lot of the videos we're seeing, whether it's MYLETT, who just talks about a lot of the times we think we're the old version of ourselves, and a lot of times we get stuck and we repeat the same things over and over every day, and it's a pattern, and like in the book from Joe Dispenza, how he talks about when we have that. We have this image about ourselves that we've carried since our childhood, and we get up and we'll check the news or we'll check our social media feed, and then it's like, oh yeah, that's who I am. Here's all these things that are reminding me of what the person I am, my likes and dislikes, and it's just fascinating to kind of wake up to the fact that there is this possibility to change those habits and just kind of reset and start a new program.
And when you think of who you are, and if you think about when you were a kid, if our bodies regenerate every 7 years, is not the same cell in your body. So you're a collection of cells in consciousness. If you remove one cell, are you still you? If you remove two, if you remove 1,000, when are you not you anymore? And are you your body? Or are you just the consciousness within the body? So rather than like a whirlpool it exists, but is it the water in the whirlpool? No, because that passes by. Is it the air within the whirlpool? No, it's the motion. It's the consciousness that makes us who we are.
Right.
That'd be one way of thinking about it.
Yeah. So. Well, and that's fascinating too, because at what point, as our cells die off and get recreated, it's like, at what point are we not ourselves, right? Yeah, I mean, we're consciousness and evolving, and it's almost like when I look at what I've gone through, and in the first chapter, a woman goes through something similar, where you don't know what to do. The anxiety and depression kind of get take over, and you kind of just give up and say, okay, I don't know what else to do, and just give it to God or the universe, or from that moment, it's like things started to change and get positive, and I started filling myself up with positive things, and I think that helped change like my mindset into what I've become now, and just very less judgmental and more open to what everyone else is going through, and kind of focusing on other people and helping other people, and that's brought more happiness and joy to my life. So it's like, going back to the reference of, waking up in the morning and checking social media or the news and seeing that, oh yeah, that's who I am. Well, the good thing about that and social media and stuff is you can change the algorithm, of what is shown to you. So, social media, you start liking certain pictures or from certain people, right? Yeah. And okay, Facebook or Instagram, I'll show you more of that because that's what you like. So what's great about both social media and I think life is like you can start blocking out the negative stuff and introducing positive things and just kind of reset the program for kind of for your life.
And that sounds like what you did when you said, I'm going to give it up to God or the universe. You're saying, I'm ready to reprogram. And then you're self-curating as soon as you start, just like social media. If you're liking positive things come into your life. If you like negative things come into your life. And if you're open to not doing the same pattern over and over again, and you say, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to look at my email, I'm going to look at my social media, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to think about these thoughts about these people and do these things, and you change that and you say, okay, I'm going to think positive and I'm going to be open. I'm not going to predetermine everything I'm going to do today. I'm going to be open to positive things to happen. Then when they appear, you're able to embrace them, whereas they're probably there all the time. Yep. But if you're looking for negative things, you will find negative things.
It's actually crazy, and if you had told me this a couple of years ago, I would say, okay, that's a theory, and that's right. That's good, and I almost wish it would be true. And going through the process I have and kind of backwards engineering, like, okay, what happened, on that day or night where it's like I was so stressed out and filled with anxiety to the point where I just said, I give up. There's nothing I can do to kind of break this mental cycle. And, and that's when, that overwhelming sensation came over me. And it was like, something or, this voice or, something, my body was just warm, and it was like, tap on my shoulder, like, hey, everything's going to be okay. You don't have to, struggle so much. And I don't know why it was just that, I don't want to say that easy or why that happened, but after that moment, it's, with all the videos too, the motivational and inspirational videos I was watching, I think it was just, I just filled myself up with the positive messages, whether it was like, talks from Steve Harvey or Matthew McConaughey or Oprah or Denzel Washington. All these videos, these, guys on YouTube are doing such a great job curating, these talks, these speeches, and adding some music to it and just inspiring people to do positive things. And I think by a combination of that and some of the other tools and the books I'm reading, about writing things down and being disciplined enough to get up early and meditate, the benefits of that, and just kind of surrounding yourself with positivity. It just totally changes your mindset and helps you, or at least me, figure out what's important in life, and it's these type of interactions and communication and talking with people, and that's how we're built. And it wasn't until I started sharing what I was going through that I found out that there's more people like me that are going through their own struggles, and it's kind of reciprocal. It's helped.
That's how we connect.
It's like, as much as, you say I'm helping you, it's like, it's twofold, for me, it's, and all the positive feedback I've gotten, which allowed us, to do this. It's, there's something there.
Yeah. And you touched on YouTube and social media. Now it's so much easier to access these inspirational things and self-curate information that can be a positive feedback loop for you. And I think that this podcast in itself is also happening because of it's enabled this time and space to be able to do that. So
yeah, it's funny too, because we're so used to carving out a little pocket of time at work and have these discussions, and it's like our discussions just go, deep, and we find out that we're either reading the same books or come across the same speaker. And it's like, we need to share these conversations because I think other people can also offer a lot too. So hopefully with this podcast, anyone watching will hopefully share their situations to help us, and hopefully we can reciprocate and help you guys as well. And hopefully we'll bring on some really good guests that are from different fields, whether it's quantum physics or writers or artists. I think everyone's on their journey, and everyone's approaches life from a different angle. And I think for me it's I've kind of taken little bits from all these different videos or books and try to create my own plan of attack, if you will, to give me the most amount of energy I can have every day, while trying to connect with as many people, family, friends, going on this journey.
Yeah, and for me, it's always been interesting through my life journey that when I start on a quest to learn something, the right person shows up in my life, has what I need, and I have something for them too. So it's definitely a reciprocal kind of experience, and the thought behind this podcast is to be able to not only continue our journeys, but also share any learnings we have to help other people, and if we reference something specifically, we'll try to put links to it that you can access, so you can use this as a resource, as well as know that you're not alone. Everybody's on a journey, and we're sorting it out as we go too.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's funny. We both talked yesterday about how, we had a work trip last week up in Boston, and yesterday, you had said, I hope you don't mind me sharing, just that you're a little bit off, still from last week. And it's like, oh no, I feel the same way because, just having that structured routine, especially in the morning, when you travel, it's definitely tough to maintain that, especially I think we were there for 4 nights. So it's tough to kind of get home, and you want to spend time with the family, but also kind of get back in your routine. So it's a little rough treading at times. So, but I think you have to. One of the things I learned along the process, even when I was doing the planking and trying to set those goals incrementally for myself, was that even like the intermittent fasting, it's like you have to be okay to give yourself a break too. If you eat outside the window for intermittent fasting, or if you skip a day of training or whatever, it's like don't beat yourself up, move on. But what I try to do is not put 2 days back to back, okay. Which last week made it very, very difficult. But also get a lot of positive things out of it too. So I think as long as you approach it in a way where, I think I kind of knew going into, that trip that my morning routine was going to be off. So it's like, I think I was prepared for that, and made it easier to not beat myself up over.
Yeah. And it's important to forgive yourself too, because if you become what you focus on. So if you focus on the foibles, or I didn't exercise, or I didn't meditate, that's what you're gonna kind of become in your head. But if you focus on, it's okay, I'm human. I can get back into my routine, and I can start continue the pursuit, because it had its benefits. We gained a lot working with our colleagues, but it's also good to get back into focusing on what our journeys are and what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't say anything negative about anything.
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. No, and that's just it. It's like even if there was a negative situation, it's training your mind to approach it, in a positive light. What can I gain from that experience, even if it is negative, which, if you had talked to me a year and a half or 2 years ago, I'd be like, who is this person?
Right.
But it's but it's amazing how just changing your attitude and your mindset to that positive approach it just changes your outlook and how, at least for me, how I walk throughout the day. It's definitely more at peace, and I think one of the things that's I've been trying to put together with some of the books we're reading and some of the speakers we're listening to is we're all on this journey, and I think I could speak for myself that I'm on figuring it out and being in this more positive approach and finding the purpose has helped me stay positive, but understand that if I do run into somebody that might be negative or is upset or just short-tempered for whatever reason, it's like it's not their fault. We're all struggling, and we're all going on this journey together, and we're going to come across people that are in different points in their life, and if you come across somebody that's either negative or sour or just has that negative vibe or energy, I'm trying to give them a pass too, to say, okay, it's not, they're going through, so there's some deeper, issues, or maybe it's not deep, it's just they're just going through their journey, and they're at a rough spot right now, and that's that just trying to give those folks the benefit of the doubt, because I know I was one of those people, and I can't imagine what they probably looked at me and was like, Joe's on his on a downslope of his journny,
Right.
So.
Yeah. And there's something you said yesterday that's maybe they're having a bad day, because you had referenced something about we're on our own adventure.
Yeah.
Every day you make decisions, and that determines what kind of day you're going to have and where you'll be set up for the next day. But every day is a brand new start, and then you determine where you want to be. And it could be that the people that are really super negative in your life at that moment might have just had a horrible day. And there's this saying about, if everyone came together and put their problems on the table, you'd probably choose your problem and take them home, and you probably would. So I too have a lot more patience for negativity or things that happen. And you gave a great story about, and I'll let you tell the story if you want to.
I want to hear this great story.
It's the one that I always said, "We'll see." That's the reference that you never know.
Oh, the Chinese farmer story. Yeah.
So, and that really resonates with me. And when what might have been a crisis years ago arises, it's like, well, we'll see. Is this bad, or is this really good?
Right. Right. Yeah. The story of the Chinese farmer. It's been a while since I told it, but let's see if I can remember. So basically, the farmer's son had a horse, and the horse ran away, and the villagers came to the farmer and said, "Oh, that's too bad." And so the farmer says, "Well, we'll see." So the next day, the horse comes back, and it brings 6 other horses. And the townspeople come to the farmer and say, "Oh, you're so lucky," And he says, "Well, we'll see." So then I think the next day, the son was riding the horse, and he fell off the horse and broke his ankle. So the townspeople came and say, "Oh, that's a shame. That's too bad." And the farmer says, "Oh, we'll see." And then the following day, some local military comes to draft his son for the military, and they had to look him over and pass him over because he had broken his ankle and he wasn't fit to serve. And the townspeople came and said, "You're so lucky." And he says, "Well, we'll see." So, you just don't know if a positive situation or a negative situation is actually positive or negative until you see the absolute outcome, and you don't know what that is, and until
and you may never know. But
right?
You can control how you respond to it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm excited to have Craig on next week. Craig studied Chinese medicine in Asia, and we were talking. He recommended this book from Joe Dispenza called "Becoming Supernatural," and talks about epigenetics and that questioning, time being not linear but interdimensional, and we have infinite amount of ourselves at any given point in time. So decisions we make spawn off different versions of ourselves, and just looking at time and space in more dimensional versus linear kind of gives it goes back to the way I interpret it as almost like this choose your own adventure. So today there is we think about the past a lot and how the past defines us, but yet if you look at it a different way, it's every day is kind of as a restart, and every day you're the best version of yourself you could possibly be, because you've gathered all these days of information that led you here, but you are not one particular version of that. You are the present version of yourself, which is at this point in time the most knowledgeable. And
you can define that by past experiences being limited if you want to, but it's you prescribing that on yourself. Whereas if you went into the day thinking that I'm the best possible version of myself because I have all the experience of the past and all the infinite possibilities in the future, then you would choose a more positive experience, and therefore just like you find what you look for. If you're looking for positive things, they'll come into your life. If you're looking for opportunity, it'll appear. And it's I think Mike Dooley is another author, and he always talks about the cursed how. Human beings like to plan things out, and many of us, I should say, approach life like it's a map, and it's the roads are printed on paper, and it's a concrete thing that to get from A to B, I have to take these roads. But life is a lot more, if we think about Joe Dispenza, more like a GPS or a Waze app where you put in your destination, and depending on your travel day to day, you may have to change and alternate your route. So you have to be open to what opportunity really is, just like the Chinese farmer. It could be a bad thing, could actually be a good thing because you're avoiding an accident in the future. Whereas if you stick with the map, you may meet your goal, but you may have a frustrating time because you're concerned with the cursed how of like every step has to be this step to get to there. Whereas if the day you said that I'm going to give it up to God and the universe and let opportunities happen as they happen, you went from a map to the GPS.
Yep. And that's what's crazy too. Even to that reference, it's like sometimes you have to build. The road might not even exist. You have to create your own road, and Google Maps would have to drive around and find that, and but there's definitely something there that I think just approaching life differently and thinking about it in that way, because I think a lot of us do live in the past, and that's by living in the past we're kind of projecting our future too in some degree, where
which worked when we're evolving as creatures.
Right.
That you could predict that the lion might be down here. So
yeah, and I think even some of the books I've read, it's definitely good to have plans and goals, and they should be written down. But I think the most important thing is to start towards those goals, even if you don't know how you're going to get there. You just got to start, and then the universe kind of opens up, because then you're open to, okay, I did, even with this this podcast, it's last year at the beginning of the year, I'm like, okay, I want to create this blog, but eventually I want to do a podcast, but I can't just have a podcast with no material or what. So I knew I had to kind of set this foundation with the website and the blog, and hopefully it would morph into something. And here we are, episode 1. So it's like if I didn't take that initial step, and this wouldn't have happened. And I'm not trying to take kudos for that. It's amazing that everything I'm just doing what the research has suggested, and it's working. And again, all this happened without me knowing, and now I'm trying to do the research to say, why was I not sure? I told you there was a pocket of 6 weeks where it's like nothing could bother me. Things at work that were bothering me just rolled off my back, because I think it was like for the first time, it's like, just worry about the present moment. Everything else will take care of itself. It always does. Whether it's a negative day or a positive day, everything always comes together, in the end, or, as long as you're working towards that, things will open up.
Yeah. And that's if it's the GPS model, you take a step, and that's the universe will figure out what the map is for you. Yeah. And the whole podcast, coming up with the podcast, this evolved because organically we would meet and have these conversations, and we're coming across the same books, and we're watching the same videos without it. So it's likes attract likes, positive attracts positive. And I found in my life that there's been people that run parallel, that it's like, whoa, that's exactly the person I need to meet and talk about this with, and our relationship has become one of those. And this is beneficial for me. It's beneficial for you, and hopefully can be beneficial for other people too.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what's crazy too, is like if the more you forced it, if I wanted to go right into a podcast, this here wouldn't have evolved, because it would have been pre us having these discussions that we could we'll be sharing with everybody, and it would have just been me, who knows, talking about some of the books, or who knows. But everything does line up when you're ready, and
when you take action, and as we say, lean into it. You definitely you had a destination in mind, some kind of podcast, and you had no idea how that was going to happen, but you took action to head there. You didn't map it all out. You didn't wait for great. You kind of launched and took off.
That's a great point too, is because I always found myself to be a perfectionist. It was like, oh, now's not the right time. I need to, even with the creative, because I'll do the creative for the blog post too. It's like, there's definitely, some mistakes that I see, but they're not a big deal, in the scheme of things. But it's like, if I waited to perfect everything, then, I'd have probably half as many, articles that I do, and it would slow me down. So it's like, it is what they say. It's just important to get started, because just getting that ball, rolling will get that momentum going. And, that's why I like the daily planner of just having those two big tasks, I think, and that's what works for me is, instead of having this long laundry list of to-dos, I try to approach it, one day at a time, and just have two big, they don't even have to actually be big, but it's like two things I want to accomplish aside from my normal positive, like daily habits with meditating and, exercising. But it's like, by having those two, if I can get those two things done, before noon, I feel accomplished. I can check those boxes and go, okay, hey, if I get to something else, it's gravy, but I did two things today. You multiply that times 7 days, you did 14 things in that week, versus if you have this long list. In the past, I'd be like, all right, what can I knock off real quick? Then you procrastinate. I'll get to that tomorrow. I'll get to that Saturday.
And it's overwhelming too, because you see a long list. Shipping off two things, whereas every day, if you have the two achievable goals, it adds
up to 14. Versus I'm sure, I haven't tried to go back to the long list, because I know how productive I can be with the two a day. But I'm sure if I had that long list on a consistent basis, I wouldn't get 14 things done every week. Right. Or maybe I would. I don't know. But this approach seems to to work for me. And that was one nugget I took from, I think it was the 7 Habits of Successful People.
And that's the same thing with the art that I create. It's like, in the past, I'd be like overwhelmed about trying to create or finish a piece, but the chip away method, every day getting in the studio for at least an hour, and you just start. If you putter for 15 minutes doing busy work in a studio, you will have creativity happen. It's like you don't wait for creativity and inspiration. You show up and you make it show up, and it'll show up after a few minutes. It's like a muscle. You got to warm it up, and you don't wait for it. It'll hardly ever come if you wait for it.
Yeah, and that's true. And it's like you said, it's a muscle, and that's the same with everyone's, will talk to me about like how I'm able to get up early and I don't sleep a lot, or whatever. But it's like, I started with a longer window and I tried to just start getting up earlier and earlier, but I did it incrementally over time.
Yeah.
And again, the initial purpose was just to not butt into, or not butt in, but I didn't want to take time away from the kids and the family time. So it's like I wanted to get my routine stuff out of the way. And especially doing it earlier in the morning, it's like it kind of sets the day in the right, in the right state. But again, it's like it takes practice. It takes discipline to, even if it is 15 minutes, just, write that down, make it a habit, and you'll get that time in.
And then it's the momentum of looking back and say, over a week I've done this much time. Over a year I've done this much time. And you can progress a lot just in incremental steps and cutting yourself some slack to try to do it every day. But especially this time of year, a lot of New Year's resolutions have gone by the wayside, and people are probably feeling bad about themselves, and it's setting themselves up probably for failure by expecting to do 14 things a day rather than the two a day.
Yeah. It's funny too, because like, even, I talk about how, I was overweight and stuff, and a lot of times it's like you'd get this momentum going for working out or running or whatever, and you do it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and you don't see the results, and then you quit. And that kind of seems like the normal cadence, at least for me. It's like every couple of years or every 6 months, it's like I'm onto this new thing. But once I didn't see the results, because I wanted that fast, and I thought a month was fast enough to, see results. But it's like, your body's a sophisticated, machine. It doesn't just, you want to lose weight or do this. It just doesn't happen overnight. But the thing I learned once I started planking and setting those goals to incrementally increase the minutes I was doing it, and then even running, I just made it a commitment. Like, even after a month, if I don't see the results, I'm just going to keep going. Then, it was like maybe the 6 or 7 week mark that it's like, okay, it went from a little bit of results to a lot. And I'm like, okay, this is working. It just took a lot of time for, the ship to turn, to change courses and then head in the right direction. So, I think one of the messages, I want to leave everybody with this podcast as we move on is just, again, if I could do it, anybody can do it. So no matter what your struggle is, if it's anxiety and depression, if it's your weight or emotions, or just incrementally just trying to change your mindset or ease into an activity. Because I was telling you, like, I shouldn't be able I have 3 kids, married with 3 kids, and they're all into, we're all running them around everywhere. It's like, I shouldn't have the time to do it. It's like, when I was young, I had the time to do it when we were first married, and that's when I was at my heaviest. Right. So it's like, it's the opposite. I should be, not in really good shape, if according to the normal statistics, but I think that's why it's just important to know that no matter how old you are or what situation you're in, you can make the change. It looks daunting, and it does take a lot of work, but you just focus on one day at a time and just get that win. It's like when I scan my gym card in the morning, it's like I know as soon as that thing beeps, I'm in for a workout, but I know I won the day because I beat Father Time. I woke up before the sun came out, and I'm going to get stuff done.
And then waking up, I forget her name, and you'll remind me. Does the launch in the morning, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
Oh yeah, the NASA.
Robbins.
Robbins. What's her first? Yeah.
There'll be a link.
Yeah.
But after hearing her, I still do that in the morning when the alarm goes up. I just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm up.
Yeah. Well, and that's, remember, for the athletes thing at work, that was one of the things. I knew I wanted to do a certain thing with interviewing certain people. I'm like, okay, I'll do it after lunch. I got my car. I went to get lunch. I'm like, nah, I'm procrastinating. I'm doing this because it's something I'm afraid to do. It's going to take some boldness. But I said 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just turned the car around, went in, did it, and
you had a cameraman.
Yeah.
And intercepted and interviewed people as they were walking, and that was good.
So, but yeah, it's one of those things. That 5-second rule that she came up with is just really good. It's like getting out of bed in the morning.
It's just going to try to talk you out of something. It's kind of like, you sure you want to go in there? That might be a saber-tooth tiger in there. It's like, no, just get up.
Just get up. Just do it. Yeah. So, well, I think we can wrap this one up, and I think again, this was a great kickoff to the podcast series, and our next episode we'll have our good friend Craig on, which hopefully we'll get some great insights from him for sure. And yeah, thanks for being here, Tim, and
thanks for having me. See you on the other side.
Yeah.
So.
Cheers.